Hello, everyone. Welcome to our lecture on fire on our landscapes, comparing Karuk traditional ecological knowledge and Forest Service burning practices. My name is Mateo, and we have Sarah and Safa with us as well. So we want to start with a land acknowledgement. University of Washington acknowledges the Coast Salish people of this land, the land which touches the shared waters of all tribes and bands within the Suquamish, Tulalip, and Muckleshoot nations. We're going to be talking about fire ecology, fire adapted ecosystems, the Karuk Tribe, the current fire crisis, and end with a comparison between the Forest Service and cultural burning, followed by a discussion on what is next. So what is fire ecology? This definition we have here is the study of how wildland fires originate and how they interact with the environment. There's a pyramid of what fires need to burn, and that is fuel, oxygen, and a source of ignition. Currently, we see more fuels result of fire suppression, changing climate, which increases climatic events like weather and like wind, weather, and droughts. And additionally, there's an increase in where these fires can be ignited from. Historically, it's always just been lightning, but now we have power lines, arson, and many more causes. Fire is a natural process. We see this through fire rings, charcoal deposits, archaeological records, and we see that throughout the history of the planet. As oxygen levels rise and vegetative availability increase, there are more fires and more deposits in those records. That includes the two parts of the triangle, fuel and oxygen. Many species have evolved along fire, which has driven the evolution, such as serotiny and many other species. Fire regimes include frequency, severity, and extent of fires. Fire adapted ecosystems, I mentioned briefly serotinous cones. These are thick, hard pine cones that are sealed shut with resin and remain closed until they're heated by fire. So these species, including lodgepole, Paiute cypress, giant sequoia, Monterey pine, and many others, require fire in their ecosystem in order to aid reproduction. Once these cones open, they are able to be dispersed through natural means. Additionally, species such as quaking aspen require disturbances to clear competition and stimulate growth. Fire regimes change depending on species composition, topography, and climate. Historically, there's always been fires on the land, supported by native people to increase rangeland through big game, such as elk and bison, and also to decrease competition to foster production of native foraging species. This knowledge has been passed through generations of land managers.
Cultural burning is defined as the intentional application of fire by indigenous groups such as the Karuk Tribe to achieve cultural, ecological, and spiritual goals. This practice predates prescribed fire regulations and is recognized in California law as distinct from prescribed burns. The purpose of cultural burning is multifaceted. It reduces wildfire risk by managing fuels while promoting culturally significant plants, such as black oak for acorns, hazelnuts, beargrass for basketry, and tobacco for ceremonies. These burns also enhance biodiversity and control pests like weevils that harm acorns and maintain important spiritual and cultural traditions. Historically, the Karuk tribe used cultural burns for thousands of years to shape fire-adapted landscapes. Unfortunately, colonial suppression policies disrupted these cycles.
The Karuk is a tribe of indigenous people located in Northern California's Klamath Valley. The Karuk are known as wildland managers, using cultural burning practices to promote the growth of plants for food, medicinal, and cultural purposes. This includes beargrass for basketry, tobacco for ceremonies, and black oak acorns for food. Cultural burning was also traditionally used to manage ecosystem health. Frequently burning away litter and duff layers prevented pests and pathogens from killing vegetation while reducing fuel loads. Today, climate change increases stressors on traditionally valuable species. Euro-American colonialism massively impacted North American ecosystems by introducing fire exclusion to fire-frequent climates. The Weeks Act of 1911 introduced a 100% suppression policy in the United States. This led to a massive fire deficit in regions like the Klamath Mountains. Over the following decades, there has been an influx of fuel overloads, as well as climate change-driven increases in average temperatures and a decrease in precipitation during the fire season. The Forest Service states that there is a growing wildfire risk due to accumulating fuels, a warming climate, and expansion of the wildland-urban interface. In 2017, California accounted for nearly half of the Forest Service's fire budget. Public health issues surrounding wildfire smoke are severe. Fine particulate matter in smoke exacerbates and introduces cardiovascular and respiratory issues, leading to increased hospitalizations. Dissolved organic matter from burned areas can also run off into watersheds, mixing with cleaning agents in water treatment facilities to create carcinogenic disinfection byproducts. High-severity wildfires increase ecosystem susceptibility to erosion, bark beetles, future wildfires, and other stressors.
For much of the last century, the Forest Service prioritized fire suppression, and events like the Great Fires of 1910 led to policies such as the Weeks Act in 1911, which banned fire on federal lands. This approach caused fuel to accumulate, leading to increasingly destructive fires. More recently, the Forest Service has shifted towards using prescribed burns to reduce wildfire risk. These controlled burns are carefully managed to reduce fuel loads and prevent catastrophic wildfires. Now, let's compare the two approaches. The Forest Service focuses on prescribed burns primarily for fuel reduction, wildfire prevention. These burns are systematic but lack the cultural and ecological depth of indigenous practices, especially because they haven't been around as long and aren't as specialized to the landscape. In contrast, the Karuk Tribe's cultural burning is holistic. It seeks to restore ecosystems, enhance biodiversity, and support cultural traditions. For example, the Karuk deliberately burn under black oak to protect acorns and to encourage the growth of basketry materials. The outcomes also differ. Forest Service burns reduce wildfire risks, but often don't address broader ecosystem health. Meanwhile, Karuk cultural burns restore landscapes to historic conditions, creating sustainable ecosystems.
So what's next? I want to quote this Karuk tribal member, Dr. Carrie Norgard from the Department of Natural Resources. The key is an understanding about the nature of traditional laws so it can be expanded in a manner that simultaneously promotes knowledge sovereignty, tribal self-determination, and tribal governance. Whether it be through traditional ecological knowledge or the Forest Service practice of prescribed burning, we need a united front to increase control fired on our landscapes. Fire is a management tool and should be used as such. Science is moving the needle, but we need bureaucracy and funding to help catch up, as well as expanded educational campaigns. And this concludes our presentation about fire ecology. I hope you learned something today. Here are our citations, and thank you so much for listening.